Hi, everyone. This is Tony from Okcoin. With me today is Arthur Breitman, the co-founder of Tezos. Arthur, it's great to be speaking with you today.
Likewise. Thanks for having me.
Well, Arthur, Okcoin just listed Tezos, the ability to buy, sell, trade, and also stake Tezos. And I thought it would be timely for you to give an overview of Tezos so our community can learn more. Let's start with the history. What made you decide to start Tezos?
Before we get there, I just want to point that the cryptocurrency is called Tez. So you're not staking Tezos, you're not trading Tezos, you're trading Tez.
Got it.
What made me want to, so my early involvement in Tezos, I think what was fascinating for me was this idea of cryptocurrencies or ledgers, and essentially the algorithm that underpins and can change what matters is a ledger, and that's something that's socially constructed. Like there's an agreement that yes, this is everyone's balance, and the way we maintain it is not set in stone. But that causes practical question, which is if it's not, then how do we change it? How do we maintain this kind of social agreement around the ledger while changing the underpinning algorithm or consensus method or protocol? And there were two schools of thoughts. One was that you do it with hard forks, and the other one is that you don't do it. And that's what you mostly see today, with the most famous representative of you don't do it being Bitcoin, or you do it very, very sparingly for very minimal things, and Ethereum being on the camp of like you just hard fork. And so I thought there was a third way to do with this, which was to use the consensus making ability of blockchains in order to get consensus over the changes themselves. And so this was this idea that you can, a rule set can provide rules for its own modification. So you want to have a full introspective protocol that has rule about how the rules evolve. And that was Tezos. So the concept was intellectually fascinating for me, and that's why I ended up falling into this rabbit hole.
Sure. And can you tell us a bit about the attributes? Obviously, we have the token, the XTZ token. It's proof of stake blockchain. Can you go through some of those things and maybe what makes Tezos different from other proof of stake blockchains?
Sure. I mean, there's many things that make that makes Tezos unique, but in general, I insist on three aspects. You've mentioned proof of stake, and we've been proof of stake since the very beginning, since our launch in 2018. But the product itself dates from 2014. One other aspect is a high-level virtual machine, and that sounds a little oddly specific until you actually realize what it can do. The benefit is that instead of running an assembly language for running smart contracts, we're in a higher level language, which makes it easier to make proofs about your program. So if you want to have very high value application, you have an easier time proving their property. It can also be more efficient, and we've had gains of about 2 orders of magnitude in efficiency over the past. So that's like 40 to 100x over the past year. And part of that is because we have this high level language, and so we don't have to spend all of our time metering gas. Instead of that, we can take big leaps through programs. So it's a bit of a technical aspect, but there's benefits in having this approach, and we're fairly unique in taking it. And the third one, of course, is the governance. So each attendant can evolve. And it doesn't evolve by diktats. It doesn't evolve by the decisions of a few. It evolves by consensus over all the validators of the chain. The thresholds are very high. It takes an 80% supermajority to accept a change, for example. So those are the main properties of Tezos, and I think what really sets it apart.
Got it. And tell us about staking, the ability to earn and holdings the XTZ tokens.
Right. So Tez by itself, the cryptocurrency, so it has a ticker, which is XTZ, but I like to refer it by its name, Tez. So Tez is, by itself, holding Tez can give you block creation rights. So just by holding Tez, not even staking it, just by holding Tez, once in a while, you're going to get the rights to create a block. And then you can either exercise that right yourself. So if you exercise that right, what you're going to do is you're going to put up a bond, you're going to create your block, and then after a while, your bond is returned to you. So that's the mechanism for block creation. The other thing you can do is you can rent out those block creation rights to a baker. You can tell a baker, look, I'm getting these block creation rights because I hold Tez. you go out and you put up a bond and you create a block. So that's a delegation mechanism that we have in Tezos. And so a lot of what we call bakers are going to do that. So essentially they are people who are going to put up a security deposits, create a block, so everything. They collect the block reward, but in general, they will typically give 90%, or it varies. It could be 80%, it could be 95%. They're going to give a big fraction of that block reward to the delegator for having received all of these block creation rights.
What's your long-term vision for Tezos as being, the co-founder, and how far the project has come and grown and getting adoption? What's your outlook for and vision for it?
I think scaling is going to be quite important. So just becoming bigger and becoming pervasive. So being underpinning a lot of transactions, underpinning a lot of financial activity, but not just financial. I think every asset can be represented and will be represented on this type of networks. So including art, equities, commodities, derivatives. All of these assets are going to find a place on blockchains, and I think the goal for Tezos is to be the preferred place where all of these things take place.
So on that note, let's talk about some recent adoption news, which are pretty exciting and pretty big, such as USDC stablecoin will be launching on the Tezos blockchain. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know that much more than you do probably. I know that Circle is big in the stablecoin space, and that USDC started becoming one of the biggest. I think the biggest is probably still Tether, but USDC certainly has seen a ton of growth. And so they're on a few chains, and one of these is going to be Tezos, and I think that's quite useful if you want to build primitives which interact with USDC on a Tezos chain. Then once you have USDC launch on Tezos, you can do that. That can be useful for DeFi application, for payments, and for a bunch of other things.
In addition, there was also the McLaren racing team, which are going to be using Tezos for the Formula One NFTs. That sounds very exciting with the boom of NFTs.
Yeah, it's right. So it's both McLaren and Red Bull Racing who are issuing NFTs for their fans and general engagement with their fans, and they're using the Tezos blockchain as a platform for this endeavor.
Are there any hints to what we can expect from Tezos for the remainder of the year? I know there's certain things probably under NDA and PR release, but any hints you can give us?
Yeah, sure. So we're having more protocol proposals that are going to be proposed. So right now we are just about a little more than a week away from the activation of Granada. And Granada comes with an interesting feature. So most protocol upgrades so far have been about technical, I would say, changing technical parameters in the protocol, or upgrading the consensus algorithms, faster virtual machine. There's something that is quite new in Granada called liquidity baking, and the idea is to use a bit of inflation. So in total, about I think 0.13%. So you extend the money supply by 0.13%, and then you use that for the next 6 months as a subsidy for providing liquidity on a chain between Tez and a wrapped version of Bitcoin called TZBTC. And that's cool because you might say that a lot of technical changes, you could do that with hard forks because, it's uncontroversial. It's just like a faster way of doing things. Why do you even need, to have an upgrade? People can just install the new version. It's the same protocol. Whereas doing, like choosing basically to use a little bit of inflation in a money supply to solve a collective action problem, which is the provision of liquidity, is, I think, quite novel and interesting, especially for an L1. So we're going to see how this play out. It's an experiment, but it's definitely something to watch closely, and that starts in just about 7 days, maybe 8 days, something like that. And then we have so new proposals which are going to come. So typically proposals are named after letters of the alphabet and cities. So G for Granada. Before that we had F for Florence. So there's H for. So proposal H is going to is likely going to include a new consensus algorithm called Tenderbank, which has finality on every block. Which, right now you get some pretty decent statistical finality after just 5 blocks, but here you will have shorter block times and faster finality, which is quite useful. I think after that, one of the big project on our on the roadmap of different teams working on a protocol such as Nomadic, Marigold. There's many different teams involved. Is getting optimistic rollups on a platform. And there's one way you can build optimistic rollup where we just build them in isolation from the chain, and you just bring them. But if you build them inside the protocol as a first-class citizen, they can get a little more efficient. And so the idea is to have this first-class citizens of the protocol.
Got it. Well, let's wrap it up with this. Anything else you think any new users to Tezos should know about? I know you covered a lot there, but any final words on Tezos that maybe folks who are first encountering it should know about? We having a tremendous amount of activity right now on the chain. So the amount of smart contract calls has been growing exponentially since the beginning of the year. We're just setting new records in usage and adoption every month. There's the most active art marketplace across all blockchains today for NFTs is not on Ethereum. It's not on Polygon. It's not on any of this platform. It's on Tezos. I think there's a tendency for people who are not that familiar with Tezos, who maybe Tezos fell off their radar, and they're like, oh yeah, what Tezos? It's actually, there's a tremendous amount of activity going on the chain right now, and I think if you're not paying attention to all those activities that's been going on Tezos, you're missing out on something potentially cool, and you should really check it out for your next project or for your current project, because there's a bit of a boom happening in the application space here. Arthur, I'm so excited for the future of Tezos. I'm personally a Tezos holder, and I've been staking. So thank you for joining us today, and I look forward to seeing the updates that are going to be rolled out this year.
Thank you.